persecutors with evil, and the nuns and monks offered hospitality, and while the monasteries became the centers of philanthropy in the world. In this context, Martyria and Christ's love are intertwined and should inspire Christians for the fight for peace, social justice, and equality. And this is something that can be done even in the dire times of standoff, discrepancy, and confrontation. In each and every epoch, each and every Christian is called upon to experience martyria in their personal life. This is the daily personal cross that each Christian has to take and carry in their daily life. In the 1970s, 80s, within the ecumenical movement, it was proposed to use the word martyria as a synonym to the word mission. And it's in line with the idea that each missionary, as a genuine witness to the Christ, has to live in such a way that their thought will be in line with their life, and each missionary should be ready to sacrifice even their lives for the sake of the Christ. This proposal was supported by diverse Christian denominations, and it was a reminder of the fact that missionary work is first and foremost about being witnesses to the truth and grace of God. Theological research on this topic insists that the duty of testifying about the Christ is closely linked to the nature of the church. Therefore, any indifference to martyria, to this mission, is like the denial of the church and the Christ. The true mission is not about spreading the word of the gospel in some faraway exotic countries, but we also have to accomplish this mission in those countries that used to be Christian countries, but right now they are profoundly secular and even atheistic. The mission has to be martyria. It's all about the testimony to the true Christian life, and it has to be manifested in those people who are even beyond the church or who moved away or detached from it. The Great Council of the Orthodox Church that took place on Crete in 2016 under the presidency of Patriarch Bartholomeus discussed this fundamental issue. And here we can see a quote: "The conveyance of the gospel's message according to the last commandment of Christ, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you." This is the diachronic mission of the church, and this mission must be carried out not aggressively or by different forms of proselytism, but in love, humility, and respect towards the identity of each person and the cultural particularity of each people. All the Orthodox Church have an obligation to contribute to this missionary endeavor. And in paragraph 6 of the same message, we find that the apostle serving and the sermon of the gospel is the main identity of the church. It's all about God's testament, go and teach all the peoples. This is a breath of life that the church breathes into human society, and this is the way to create and spawn local churches. In this regard, the Orthodox believers are and should be the apostles of the Christ in the world. This mission has to be realized not aggressively, but freely, in love and respect towards the cultural identity and particularity of each person and people. And all the Orthodox churches have to participate in these endeavors with due respect for the canonical order. Participation in the godly Eucharisty is the source of apostolic passion towards the evangelization of the world. Participating in this endeavor, we are called to continue liturgy after liturgy, and we have to give a testimony about the truth of our faith. We have to do it in the face of the God and human beings. And we also have to comply with God's testament, who said that you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in Judea, and in Samaria, and in uttermost corners of the world. The re-evangelization of the godly people in the current secular societies is a continuous duty of the church. End of the quote. The 21st century poses some new challenges in front of all of us, but at the same time we find some new conditions and opportunities to convey the message of God all over the globe, and it's possible first and foremost through the technical progress with the profoundness inspired by the Holy Spirit, and with courage the Christians are encouraged to work for the sake of the Christ and to give testimony about the Christ, and this martyria is all about self-sacrifice. Unfortunately, the history of Christianity has always given the opposite witness for the love of Christ. Indeed, separations, cleavages, and heresies that appeared right at the times of the first apostles were already there. Let's remember, for example, the case of the Corinthian church, where some members would state that they follow Paul, and the others would say they are followers of Apollos. Such statements and such cleavages among Christians continue to persevere today, unfortunately, and they reveal all the failures of the Christians, not only to practice love of Christ, but also to witness in martyrdom, to witness the Christian love and truth. This is a failure of the church mission in evangelization of the non-believing world. Unfortunately, this world only fosters secularization of the world. Under the circumstances of such cleavages that appeared due to the pride, jealousy, and hate, the world is not convinced to follow the way of gospel. That's why the love of Christ has to be not only the basis of Christian martyrdom in order to make the world believe, but also a key for reconciliation between the divided Christians. Only the love of Christ and his practice of the main commandment to love one another, just as he loved us, can reconcile the divided Christians and bring them to unity. This way, due to this witnessing of the true disciples of Christ, love can convert the whole world to the faith for Jesus Christ. Under the circumstances of present conditions of the global pandemics, the Christ's love is the only is apt and relevant topic for the world that undergoes not just an extremal situation in terms of climate, economics, human injustice, but also suffers from different consequences of the pandemic of COVID-19. The love of Christ has to inspire martyrdom for to inspire Christians, contemporary Christians for martyrdom who live in the world, the world that is striving for health, solidarity, peace, justice, and unity. The topic that was selected by the World Council of Churches for the 11th Assembly that will take place in September 2022 is the following: love of Christ makes the world to strive for reconciliation and unity. We hope that this gathering will give an opportunity for the churches to think over the significance of Christ's love in the 21st century, and also how our churches could get reconciled and face the challenges and response to the challenges they face in our suffering world, so that the Christians could stay faithful to the call of their Savior to be the salt and the light of this world. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Excellence, for joining us today. Thank you for your words. it is very valuable to understand the connection between martyrdom, monasticism, sacrifice. All these things are tightly interconnected. And when we talk about sustainable development, this idea is also core, because it helps us to see how things are interconnected and how they are harmonized and make one harmony. It is vital that the Christian sermon, the sermons in our churches would be united, would be the same in the context that we call the context of a secularized society, so that we all would be one and the world would then believe. Because if we make our witness shared, then the value and the credibility of this witnessing will grow. And I am grateful to you for showing how martyrdom is a kind of witnessing in the Ukrainian context. What was mentioned by Taras Kurelets, our today's martyrdom requires us to be not just a martyrdom of word, but martyrdom of our deeds, martyrdom of our life. But that's a different pair of shoes, because to preach gospel is much easier than to live according to the gospel, and to pray and to preach on unity is much easier than just to practice this unity, to show others that we are serious about unity. And then witnessing becomes martyry, because if you don't, unless you show that you can live by the gospel, nobody will believe you. Then your witnessing will be fake and empty. We have a little bit of time left for discussion and for questions. That's why I'm inviting those who are present here to comment and to ask our presenters questions. Please be laconic, apt, and speak to the point. And also those who are with us online, you are also welcome. You can ask questions and comment. So far, we will start from the comments by Father Ivan, and then the next will be Mr. Konstantin Sihov and Volodymyr Malchin. You can also write your question and we will read it out loud. Thank you very much, Father Ivan. I want to express my gratitude from the bottom of my heart for this wonderful session of the Ukrainian Christian Academic Society. We had a kind of Mediterranean lobby today. France, in the life of our institute, used to play a significant role at all times, because Professor Antoine Arjakovsky is one of the co-founders of our institute. He is of Russian origin, but he is a Frenchman. Oh, I'll go back to Antoine later. Pavlo, thank you. I want to say a few words about Didier Rams. Didier Rams somehow fell in love with Ukraine. When he was the director of the Postpristerhilfe of he was the director in good old days. He published several books on the Church of Ukraine, on Cardinal sleeping. I think he translated also the last will, the testament of his beatitude, Joseph, Patriarch Joseph. And the fact that you follow all these vicissitudes of our church is very evident, is very eloquent. So thank you very much. Professor Marani, well, we all know him from Rome. He was the one who organized special courses of Italian language in Mantova in the mid-90s. So that are not only candidates to priesthood could learn some Italian before coming to Rome, but also our students. Well, Antoine, now it's your turn. I will speak in Ukrainian. Ти розумієш по-українськи, а якщо ні, твоя дочка тобі переложить. I will speak in Ukrainian. You do understand that. And if you don't, then your daughter will translate it to you. Antoine, Bishop Boris, and me were the founders of the Institute for Ecumenical Studies. He initiated, because this tradition was born in France, he started the tradition of the Ecumenical Social Weeks. And now we are having the 14th Ecumenical Week, and in 6 years we will be celebrating the second anniversary, the 20th anniversary. So everything happened due to Antoine Arzakovsky's inspiration. Probably Antoine Arzakovsky has all the features to become a saint, or at least to be beatified. Why? Because you probably are a remote relative of Maria Skoptsova. Is that right? No?
I am from the family of Father Dmitry Klipinin, who is my
Ні.
grandfather. Thank you to remind this.
Yes, so you are related. You have some drops of blood of holiness. Так що маєш кілька крапель святості в своїй твоїй матері.
But you know what surprised me? That she was helping Bishop Grigory Khomyshin in Ivano-Frankivsk. We know that he was beatified, but he was far from being ecumenical. He was a little bit, well, not a little bit, he was rather against Latinization of our rite, and he was opposing Metropolitan Sheptytsky. But Mother Maria Skoptsova communicated with him, and he helped her, and she helped him. I think I have nothing else to add to what Bishop Yogecha said, Archbishop Yogecha said. I am so grateful to God, dear Archbishop, that you are co-head of our mixed theological commission between Orthodox and Catholic churches. Although our northern neighbor was not overjoyed about this, and I cannot even mention how many tricks he put into our communication. But I believe him to be the spokesman for Patriarch Bartholomew. And that's the proof to me that the Orthodox can teach us and the Catholics can teach them something. And just have a look at the Greek world. They print Hans Künger, who has passed away. They publish Roman Catholics. I think they will also publish Greek Catholics, and so on and so on. So this is what we have to cherish up, at least in Ukraine. We don't have to fear, we as Greek Catholics, to invite an Orthodox to teach to our students. But then the Orthodox should not fear to invite a Catholic professor. We are not going to talk only about Pope. Me not. If they invite, because I have listened to all these messages and encyclicals that my ears almost withered. There is one moment that we haven't mentioned. There is not a single Protestant representative here. We will have Protestants in other sessions. When the Soviet Union collapsed, I lived in different countries, Canada, England. Everybody was talking about the witnessing of Baptists in Ukraine, and then the Adventists of the Seventh Day. So in future, let's remember that Christians in Ukraine are not just Orthodox and Catholics, but also the Baptists. Thank you very much to our French guys. Grazie di cuore, Padre Germano Marani. And to you, I don't know, shall I speak Ukrainian or French or English? Okay, I go on in Ukrainian.
Найсердечніше подяка наша
My
його високопреосвященству
grateful goes to His Excellence Yo, Archbishop Yo of Getcha, and please pass our best greetings to the Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention. It is today the day when the Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew is in Rome and participates in different events together with Pope Francis. Thank you very much, Father Ivan. Thank you for mentioning about the Protestant dimension of witnessing. And I will use this opportunity to announce that we have upcoming sessions of Ukrainian Christian Academic Society. Tomorrow we have 2 more sessions. Dr. Mikhailo Cherenkov will speak about the experience of Protestant martyrdom. We will have a speech on the 7th of October in the second half of the day by Roman Solovey about Dietrich Bonhoeffer and Andre Tronki, and we will also have a speech from Steven van der Hoeven, who is the director of the Institute of Social Unity. He will speak about the Christian virtue of hope. So we do keep in mind the Protestant dimension of our Christianity and our witnessing. Now I would like to see on the screen Konstantin Sigov. Mr. Konstantin Sigov wanted to ask a question. After that, Mr. Sigov, you can ask your question or make comments, and after Konstantin, Andriy Smirnov will speak, who is a doctor and professor of the academy in Ostrog, and then Volodymyr Manchin. They are all online. We try to combine on and offline. Can you make Konstantin Sigov visible on the screen to everyone? Glory to Jesus Christ. Greetings to everyone. Can you hear me? We do hear you, but we cannot see you. If you can hear me, I will go on. But we cannot see you. Now we have the sound and the vision, both. I thank everyone. It was significant for us to hear you. Antoine and Didier were talking about particular martyrdom, about Father Dimitri and Mother Maria, and Bishop Didier mentioned this key notion of the cloud of witnesses that is borrowed from the Gospel, from the Holy Scriptures. And my gratitude and my comment and my question is, how do you see the channels of communication between this cloud of witnesses and our circumstances today? Because it seems to me the way we meet today and the activity that we have and the Institute's activity and the Ecumenical Week are all aimed in overcoming a stereotype that this cloud of witnesses is somewhere remote, far away, on a different planet, and we are dealing with very urgent political, economical issues and social needs. And the question is, how can this cloud of witnesses relate to us and impact our life? Such events as the Council in the Crete, or the meeting of Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew with Pope Francis, and our daily life here in Lviv, in Ukraine, in Switzerland, in France, in Africa, and elsewhere. I will provide only one of the examples to be laconic. I imagine how Mother Maria Skoptsova or Father Klipinin or Joseph Slipy could, with their voice, say the words that would be sort of nominated for Grammy. Valentin Silvestrov wrote his composition using the verse from Shevchenko: "Farewell to the world, farewell to this land. I will hide my anger and my wrath in the cloud, and my Ukraine, my relentless widow, I will fly to you. I will go to you in the middle of night and cover you with dew." So this symbol of communication, this communication between earth and heaven, we need them to hear in our praxis, in our efforts for the sustainable development, for our environmental issues, so that we could indeed feel that this intense presence of dewdrops are in my family, in the life of my community, and in our community of people who gather to conduct such a meeting and to remember about our new martyrs. Thank you very much. And this is how my question between the continuity of communication between the cloud of witnesses and us. Thank you. Thank you very much, Konstantin, for your questions, for your comments, for your participation. He is in the origins of the Ukrainian Christian Academic Society together with Anton multiple years ago. So it's a great pleasure that you've been loyal to us, and we try to demonstrate our loyalty to you as well. Are there any comments or responses from our speakers? Archbishop Job and then Anton Rajakovsky. I just want to underline and remind us one important thing. So let's keep in mind what is a uniting force behind this crowd of witnesses, and what should unite us with this crowd of witnesses. This is the love of the Christ. Very often we mistakenly believe that holiness is something extraordinary. But the gospel states that each of us is called upon towards holiness. So be as holy as your godly Father is holy. If it were an insurmountable obstacle, then we would not have received this calling from our God, calling towards being holy. We also mistakenly believe that the essence of martyrdom is death. But basically, martyrdom is not only about death. We often think that the essence of being a nun or a monk is about ascetic lifestyle, but it's not true. Death and ascetic lifestyle are just the vehicles that we can use to manifest our love for God and to manifest Christ's love. So if we have Christ's love penetrating each and every domain and area of our life, then we can be closely linked to this crowd of witnesses or saints. So basically the uniting force is the Christ's love. And one more thing, if we have a hindsight at history, and if we scan what is written right now on the internet in various media, we will see that there's this comparison between Christians and other Christians, or sometimes we also tend to compare Christians within the very same denomination. If there's no love there, then it's true indeed that we are far away from the Christ and from the gospel. Thank you very much. And now, Professor Arjakovsky.
Merci, Constantin. Ça me fait plaisir de te voir. I would like to answer briefly to what Constantine said. There is something which is very important, that both Catholic and Orthodox churches believe in the fact that the saints are present in our lives. And I would like to add that Protestant thinks that also. You see, the Nobel Prize tradition is a kind of respect of holiness of some people. The Peace Nobel Prize, that comes from Sweden, from a Protestant country also. So we all believe that the saints are present in our lives. The difficulty is that we believe it in a special spiritual way, which means that it is real, but it is not a rationalist way. It's a symbolic way. It is invisible and visible, but not visible as in a rational way. So I can speak of my life, of course, that I believe the presence of Saint Dimitri Klipinin in my life, or Mother Maria Skoptsova in my life. I have many stories to tell about that, but they are not visible in a sense that they are obligatory, that you should believe this. This is something that I can say only, believe it or not. You see, it gives freedom in their way of acting in our society. And I think this is important because we can, of course, use theology and say that in the book of Revelation, it is written that the saints are already, there is the first resurrection, and then there will be the second resurrection. And in the book of Revelation, it is written that the saints are already participating because they are resurrected in the life of our world. But it's difficult to convince people about that. So what I think is useful is to insist on this idea that for our political projects, for our economic endowments and so on, what is important is ethics, is love. We need to put more ethics in politics, more love in our way of thinking the sustainable development and that kind of things. This is my conclusion. Thank you.
Дякую, Антоне. Дуже коротко.
Thank you very much, Antoine. I will be very succinct. Well, the issue that Professor Konstantin Sigov raised is a relevant one because everyone is responsive. I just want to mention one practical aspect. If we want to make a step forward, we, the Catholics, have to include into our list of saints some Orthodox saints, and the Orthodox have to do the same thing. They have to accept and embrace our saints and martyrs, in particular the ones that were proclaimed by John Paul II 20 years ago. That would be a very specific and practicable step. And I also want to remind us of the life of Joseph Slipy. Grigory Paramas was an author. I mean, he wrote some things about the Pope that I would never write. But there's skepticism about him in Rome, and one day, Pilatntrido della Fede, he wrote a letter to Schreper. He was a friend of His Grace Joseph, and he asked about his opinion. Should we include Grigory Palamas into the liturgical books of the Catholic churches stemming from Rome? And His Grace responded right off the bat, definitely. And here have a small icon of him. So it's the true ecumenism of life. So we just need to have this exchange. We need to include their saints and martyrs, and they need to accept and embrace our saints and martyrs. This is the true essence of ecumenism. Thank you. And now I want to give the floor to Andriy Smirnov from the Ostrog Academy University. Thank you very much. I would like to share one reflection as a response to the presentation by our speakers. Mother Maria Skoptsova was of Ukrainian origin, and she saved the life of another woman, and a Polish Franciscan monk paid the price of his life for the sake of a Polish sergeant. And by the way, this Polish sergeant survived. He lived for over 90 years, and he gave testimony on the heroic deed of this monk on multiple occasions. And I'm sure that we can find multiple examples of the same sort. Multiple spiritual leaders and representatives were persecuted, arrested, prosecuted. They even died in the concentration camps during World War II. But not everyone was able or ready to pay the price of their life to fulfill this God's testament. Love your neighbors like you love yourself. And I also have a question to Archbishop Job. In your opinion, what is the attitude of the Orthodox Church to such a phenomenon as the heroes of the Heavenly Hundred, or the soldiers of the Ukrainian army who are paying the price of their lives for some higher ideals? We even have icons depicting the combat veterans of the war in the eastern part of Ukraine. And the same is true about the members of the Ukrainian insurgent army. Can we view them as martyrs, or maybe there's this politicization of the church? What is your take on it?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad to have this opportunity to speak with Dr. Smirnov. I agree with you, and I'd like also to add among these saints, martyrs, a saint from the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, Emilian Kovch, who gave also his life for others and who died in a camp, I think in Poland. So there are few, but they show the way. And I tried to explain in my speech, they gave the possibility for the world after the Second World War to have this spiritual renewal. And today I have the impression that after the COVID pandemic, we need also that kind of strong witness, ecumenical, and I would add even interreligious and interconvictional witness in order to renew our world, which needs today a spiritual renewal in order to change economics, politics, and so on. So thank you for your remark.
Дякую, пане Андрію, за дуже...
Thank you, Andriy, for a very interesting and important question indeed. This topic can be transformed into a standalone lecture, but let me just share a couple of thoughts that I have. First of all, I would like to note that in Greece, or in the Greek-speaking world, in the Greek society, there are two categories. On the one hand, we have so-called new martyrs, neo-martyrs. And I think there are no issues with the interpretation of this term. These are mostly Christians or bishops or monks or just lay people who paid the price of their lives in the church context to be witnesses to the Christ. So I think that everything is clear with this concept, but there's yet another concept, ethnomartyrs. these are persons who gave away their lives during the Greek Revolution. This year, Greece will be celebrating the 200th anniversary of its liberation from the Turkish rule, from the Turkish occupation. And this concept is much broader. But there's one nationalistic connotation there as well. So the heroes of the Heavenly Hundred that you have in Ukraine could undoubtedly be enlisted as ethno-martyrs. As for the canonization of such persons, the Christ's love must be one of the criteria. If a person paid the price of their life for other people out of the love of the Christ in the spirit of the gospel, then of course this person can be dubbed a martyr for Christ's love. But it's an ambiguous issue, and I would like to illustrate two examples, if I may. On the one hand, the Russian church canonized the Tsar's family, so because they were the sufferers. And this canonization in the Orthodox world triggered an animated discussion, because some people started asking what the Tsar's family was tortured for their love for the Christ, or maybe it was just a political act of resistance against the empire. And I think that it's still an outstanding issue. There's a big question mark there. So some people believe that the members of the Tsar's family suffered and should be canonized, while others are more cautious about such a perception. There's another example. I do respect and revere Mother Maria Skoptsova, and I'm very delighted that the Ecumenical Patriarchate canonized her. When I worked in Paris for 2 years, I had a dream. I had a dream of reviving this Orthodox Action Association established by Mother Maria Skoptsova, and this is something that I mentioned at the council meeting, but unfortunately back then the council was busy with other issues. They engaged in politics, unfortunately, and so this Orthodox Action Association was not revived. It's still a dream of mine. It hasn't been fulfilled yet, but once again, I revere and respect Mother Maria Skoptsova. I do believe that she's a saint, but some Orthodox representatives have doubts about that, because they claim that she was a non-typical nun. Therefore, she cannot be incorporated into the ranks of the saints. But this is something that I referred to in the past. What is our criterion? Ascetic lifestyle, death, or maybe the criterion is the love for the Christ, the spirit of the gospel. If we pick the gospel spirit or the spirit of love as a criterion, then it's obvious that Mother Maria died for the sake of Christ. She was a manifestation of the love of the Christ. So I believe that our key criterion should be Christ's love. I really hope that I answered your interesting question. But once again, let me reiterate that this question requires a more in-depth and profound analysis. Thank you very much. I do believe that the discussion along these lines would be of great interest. Why not have a roundtable discussion or a seminar and have a look at how other churches perceive and view people who are not really explicit saints or martyrs, because it's very difficult to draw the line between political and social aspects and the church aspects of deciding who should be canonized and who should not be canonized. So thank you very much for your reflections. We have about 1 minute left, and if the organizers permit us, we will be able to delay our session by 5 minutes. So let's do it in the following way. Volodymyr mentioned, and then Taras, Dmitrik, they will make their comments or ask their questions, but please be very brief and speak to the point. And then I will give the floor for some final remarks. And I will need about 1 minute to make some announcements. So Volodymyr, the floor is yours, and then Taras.
Thank you very much. Pavlo, you have, together with Bishop, almost answered this question, especially when you offered to conduct this seminar. My question was pertaining to the new martyrs, because they are part of this crowd or cloud of martyrs. They are the example to us because they are the ones that our grannies still could see. But I, as a Greek Catholic, have a question to Nicholas II, and many Russian Orthodox people probably have questions to our martyrs who gave their life to the future of our church and resisting to get united with the Russian Orthodox Church. So the question to our presenters: what steps can we to make sure that our most recent martyrs that are very close to us temporarily, both Catholic and Orthodox, could be visible? And please, Taras, Dmitrik, your question. We want to combine two questions because we are really pressed for time. So you are the previous head of the Ukrainian Christian Academic Society, so the floor is yours. Thank you very much, and nice to see all of you. I have a question rather addressed to the Orthodox participants of our today's seminar. We know that in the Greek Catholic Church we have an institution of the Institute of the History of UGCC, and they gather these witnesses, testimonies of saints during the persecutions and the underground period of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. In your churches, do you have such institutes that deal with gathering materials about Orthodox martyrs? Because my childhood was in late 70s, early 80s, and but we still witnessed some persecutions, because for attending a church, one could be persecuted at school, could be bullied at school, so bullying, blackmail, you're gonna have no chance to enter a university or institute for attending church. And such witnesses of people who lived at that time, who were deeply absorbed in church, would be a good example for a good sample for research. Researchers in KGB archives and some repressive bodies, that's one thing, but together witnesses of people who personally went through this, it's a completely different pair of shoes. Thank you. Thank you, Taras. Who else would like? Who would like to answer? Very briefly, no time. The first question. I think we have to be careful today. Church is not a plant that produces saints. This is one of the problems today, and probably danger. It's a today's peril. Church starts to canonize people in great amounts. In the history of Christianity, holiness has been always connected with some exceptional deeds, with the feeling that the saints are close to us, that they participate in our life. if there is this veneration, veneration by people, this should give way to initiate canonization, and not just to compile lists of people who are very far from us, who are not known to us, to introduce them into the church calendar, and that's where the process ends. This is not correct, so be careful. Regarding the second question, I cannot tell in detail. I know that in the Orthodox Church, Russian Orthodox Church, there is in Moscow there is Saint Tikhonov Institute, and they conduct research on the martyrs. The same in Romania. I've heard there are researchers on martyrs and saints. Maybe these researches are based on the archive materials rather than on the live witnesses, but still such researches occur from time to time, and I think they should be continued. Also, in the Ecumenical Patriarchate, in the last years, in particular, we've heard about canonizations, and these canonizations are always based on certain research results, on certain witnessing, certain testimonies of people who were close to those saints or knew them very well, and so on and so forth. Thank you very much. Antoine, would you like to comment or reply or respond?
First of all, I agree with what Archbishop Job just said. We need to be very careful on this issue. I would just like to ask if we would have time, Archbishop Job, what the Orthodox Church is preparing, the Ecumenical Patriarchate is preparing for the next Ecumenical Assembly in Karlsruhe in Germany. We don't have time to speak about that now, I understand, but I think it would be good to have more information what the Orthodox Church is preparing for this big ecumenical event of 2022 in Europe. There was no General Assembly of the WCC in Europe since 50 years. So it would be good if our UCAS or the Ecumenical Institute in Lviv could, in a way, participate in this assembly. That would be very stimulating for us. So if you have an idea, please tell us through the UCAT or Institute. Thank you.
I can barely hear what the speaker says. In Rome, as far as I know, they have been thinking about the reformation of the congregation pertaining to the saints, because you know this Cardinal Beccio affair and things like that has nothing to do with money. The fact is, unfortunately, that Pope Urban VIII, in the sheer scholastic understanding, differentiated between the saints and the beatified. So beatified are on the level, and the saints are on the ecumenical level. I think it's a typically Latin mentality. I, in Ukraine, may be venerated, but if I cross the border between Ukraine and Poland, I cease to be a saint or a so we have Olha, beatified Justin, but we nevertheless believe they are saints. Your task is to interrupt me. Yeah, I know. And the second, and the lawyers earn a lot of money on this, and the lawyers, church lawyers, don't want to lose the money. This is a shame that in the Catholic Church you need to gather a lot of money. I know how much money they gathered for Metropolitan Andrei Sheptytsky to make sure that lawyers will sort out certain issues. That's a shame. That's embarrassing. I would like to have this informed. And another gossip from Rome, it's not confirmed, so don't please say that Father Datsko is spreading the news. it's a gossip, but it looks like there are certain supporters of the idea that the Eastern Catholic churches and their patriarchs and their bishops have the right to proclaim somebody saint, to announce somebody saint without notifying the Pope and omitting the whole procedure with the congregation. But of course, the lawyers were against. So this was the first step, and then the second step follows. Thank you very much. Thank you, Reverend Ivan. 45 seconds to Konstantin Sigov, and then a word floor will be passed to me to close the discussion. Mr. Konstantin, how do the Orthodox work with the memory? Well, the example of Alexander Min, we don't know when he will be canonized, although he absolutely fits what Bishop Iov was saying. His life was given for the love of Christ and his disciple. The opposite tendency is at place, unfortunately, to marginalize such witnesses. It seems to me that for the Orthodox, it is a task for everyone, in Ukraine in particular, to do what Yaroslav Pelikan was doing when he was writing a book about Joseph Slipy. So the Orthodox can always give testimony about different saints, regardless of their denomination, Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, and I think it's by default a task for all the Orthodox without any exception. And I hope that today in the afternoon I will refer to this when I will speak about Alexander Min after 3 p.m. Thank you, Konstantin. First of all, I want to express gratitude to all our today's panelists. I want to thank Archbishop Job, Antoine Arjakovsky for being with us all the time, Deacon Didier Rams and Father Germano Marani. Also, I want to extend my gratitude to Renovabis Foundation, Taras Kurelets, who is the responsible secretary of the Ukrainian Christian Academic Society, who contacted all of you and gathered all these panels. One announcement, just one announcement. Please have a look at the program you received of the Ecumenical Social Week. We still have 2 sessions of UCAT. Today at 3, Konstantin Sigov will deliver his speech on Alexander Min. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. by Kiev, we have another session. It will be bilingual, English and Ukrainian. The day after tomorrow, on the 8th of October at 10 a.m., we will have an interesting session on sustainable development in ecumenical perspective. Antoine Arjakovsky and Bishop Job raised the questions how to provide the sustainable development with a religious and theological basis. So this will be discussed at 10 a.m. on the 8th of October together with the Catholic University in Louvain. So half of the participants will be from the UCU and half of people will be from Louvain. Catholics, Protestants and the Orthodox will be discussing ecumenical approaches to sustainable development. And finally, please extend your gratitude to our translators, Olha Teshkovets and Helena Pastushuk. Without them, we wouldn't be able to hear each other. Thank you for your job. So I'm looking forward to seeing you today in the afternoon. Have a great day, and thank you again, and all the technical support in particular. Thank you. See you in the afternoon.
Інститут екуменічних студій Українського католицького університету у співпраці з фондом Конрада Аденауера за підтримки Львівської міської ради запрошують до участі у міжнародному суспільному форумі.
З 5 по 9 жовтня, 14-й екуменічний соціальний тиждень, плекаючи спільне благо разом до сталого розвитку суспільства.
Як спільними зусиллями досягати цілей сталого розвитку та будувати справедливий світ?
Як зберегти довкілля, біорізноманіття, екосистеми суші та води? Як адаптувати міста до змін клімату?
Які перспективи європейський зелений курс відкриває Україні? Яка роль бізнесу у розвитку суспільства? Як сучасна церква сприяє сталому розвитку? Крізь призму екології, економіки, інклюзії та екуменічного соціального вчення досліджуємо цілі сталого розвитку разом.
Реєстрація та деталі на сайті isweek.org.ua. Форум відбувається онлайн.
Інститут екуменічних студій Українського католицького університету у співпраці з фондом Конрада Аденауера за підтримки Львівської міської ради запрошують до участі у міжнародному суспільному форумі.
З 5